get more sunlight during the day. More sunlight during the day. So tell me about why is it important to have sunlight?
Awesome. Yeah. So the first thing to understand is that serotonin, right? Serotonin is a neurotransmitter, and it's supposed to be like a feel-good kind of compound. This is why so many antidepressant medications, they're serotonin reuptake inhibitors to help keep serotonin active in your system longer. Here's what's so cool is that serotonin gets converted into melatonin. And we already talked about how important this is.
That's the anti-cancer.
It's a precursor to that. Right? And so exposure to sunlight boosts your serotonin immediately. But also exposure to sunlight helps to set your cortisol rhythm. So cortisol it's been getting a pretty bad name in the media lately because it's like glorified stress hormone. We've got like 50 hormones, and cortisol is the only bad guy now. But cortisol is incredibly important and valuable. It's just when it's out of balance, it can become a problem.
Sure.
And so sunlight is clinically proven. I cited one of the studies in the book to help to normalize your cortisol rhythm. Right. So it helps to keep your cortisol lower in the evening if you get sunlight during the day, which will elevate your cortisol. Okay. And cortisol and melatonin have basically an inverse relationship. So when cortisol's high, melatonin's low.
Right.
When melatonin's high, cortisol's low. So it helps to get that on track again. And it's not like rocket science, like we know that sunlight is valuable to human health, but we've been just swayed in the media because of, photoaging of the skin and skin cancer, things like that. And I actually talk about in the book and kind of demystify some of that, because then we get into conversation about UVA and UVB and all this stuff. But bottom line, make sure you're getting some exposure to sunlight every day. It's going to help you sleep better at night. And this can also be through your photoreceptors, so through your eyes as well. And just getting light in the room, natural sunlight, every day. And that's going to help to kind of set your circadian timing.
What if in Chicago in the winter and there's no sunlight or St. Louis and there's no sunlight for 3 months?
Check this out. So, and I do recommend, and I share some hacks, right? There are light boxes that are used clinically to help to address things like seasonal affective disorder.
Okay.
Right. There are earbuds that shoot light through your ear canal.
Right. Yep.
Right. There's visors you can wear, and they're clinically proven to be effective.
To sunbathing in a tanning salon or no?
That actually does work if it's the right kind,
bulb, the right light.
So you need more UVB actually, and really depending on where you are in the world. Pretty much the United States, period, is not getting UVB at certain times of the year. All right, so we want to be proactive with this, but understand it's not just the exposure on your skin is what I'm talking about. Your skin has photoreceptors that pick up light, but just the exposure in your room. All right, so making sure you have an office with windows, access to windows. There was another study done. This is crazy because some people work in like a cubicle dungeon.
A dungeon, yeah.
And what they found was that office workers who were not exposed to windows actually got 173% less exposure to natural light, and they ended up sleeping 46 minutes less every night as a result of that. And they saw this correlation, which was so interesting. And they reported more physical ailments, less energy, and also a higher propensity towards diseases.
Wow.
Right? So this is super important. And even getting some exposure to sunlight on an overcast day is like 50 times more valuable than any fancy light you can get exposed to. But those things are great hacks for sure. There's so many things there.
Of course. Okay, that was the first one. The second one, avoid screens before bedtime. And I think this is probably something that a lot of us are at a fault with.
I know you're kissing that phone goodnight before you go to bed, man.
Yeah, I always tell myself, like, okay, shutting it off by a certain time and, like, not having it in the room and all these other things. But it's a challenge, man. It's definitely a challenge.
Here's why, dude. Like, this is with this book, I was able to dissect that because I knew that would be the toughest one of the 21 strategies. This one is the toughest because we're addicted. We are in fact addicted,
man.
Here's why. Here's what's happening. So there's this interesting compound called dopamine, right? And it was once thought that dopamine was related to pleasure, but it's not. Dopamine is all about seeking. It's driving you to seek, right? And so the internet is perfect for this. Because there's infinite seeking. Instagram is perfect for this because you're continuously going and just there's more to see. But every time you find, you get a little hit from your opioid system. So it's like a slow drip of drugs.
Yeah.
I seek, I find. I seek, I find. and you get looped in, and it's very difficult to break that pattern.
Yeah.
And everybody's had this happen where you're like, I'm going to check my Instagram for a minute. I'll check Twitter for a minute.
Right.
And then it's 30 minutes later, an hour later, and you're still scrolling. This is what's going on. Like, our brain is hardwired to get addicted to stuff like this. And these awesome social media apps know how to manipulate our mind and to take advantage of that. So this is a call to take your brain back. I'm not saying I love this stuff. I absolutely love it, but it has a place, and it's being more aware. Now that you're aware, you can catch yourself and break the pattern. So here's why it's an issue at night in particular. So there was a study done at Rensselaer Polytechnic that found that just 2 hours of your device usage before bed was enough to suppress melatonin secretion. All right. So again, you can pass out before just being on it 2 hours before, like that span. And so you can go to sleep or pass out, but that doesn't mean you're getting that rejuvenative sleep. So this is why a lot of people are sleeping 8 hours, but they're still tired when they wake up in the morning.
Lethargic.
It's because melatonin is suppressed because they're on their device right before bed. And it's this blue spectrum of light that's shooting out, kind of pouring into your optical sensors.
What if you can stop that spectrum? Is there shades?
So
is there screen protectors? Is there glasses?
There's all of those things. So
now, is that okay then if you have the Band-Aid on it?
It's a hack.
It's not the optimal, but it's the better than.
Yes. So absolutely, everybody today can get Flux F.LUX. Sorry, F.LUX, which basically cools off your screen. Pulls off that.
Do you have that?
Troublesome? Of course. So I've got on my different.
Do you ever see what it looks like, or is it just a film that's like goes over the top?
Yeah.
of it,
so it's a cool app. It does this automatically.
It's an app.
Yeah.
So you just download it on your phone.
Yes.
I gotta get this. Okay.
Yeah, and it does this automatically based on your time zone.
Oh wow.
And the time of year, all that stuff.
Amazing.
So it pulls out that most troublesome spectrum of light, and so Harvard researchers found that it's not just light exposure; it's the color, and it's the luminance. It's the strength of the light.
Yes.
So green light was like 3 times less impactful to your sleep than blue light in their studies.
Wow.
So cool stuff like that. So Flux, you can get the blue blocking glasses. Basically, they're like sunglasses.
Use those too?
With the orange tint. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I've
when
got
you
some
watch
cool
TV
ones.
or something.
Yeah, like if you're going to stay up late and watch a movie a little bit later, but the whole thing is to not make that a habit because these are,
of course,
these are hacks. But the best thing is, and this is so important, especially for our audiences, who are really about taking their life to the next level, and they're missing out on this key component, which is you have to find something that's of greater or equal value to the device. So people, actually connecting with real people.
A book.
Yes.
Something like that, yeah.
Playing games with your kids, talking to your family, have sex.
Exactly,
there's other things that you can do.
Help you sleep well.
Yeah, I talk about that in the book too. But you have to find something that fills you up because that addiction is so strong. And that's really the best tool, which is to avoid the screens in the first place.
Yeah. Okay. That's number 2. Number 3, have a caffeine curfew. So what time? I mean, here's the thing. I feel like I don't have that much caffeine, and I almost never drink coffee except for about a month ago. I started doing some intermittent fasting testing, and so I'll have Bulletproof in the morning.
Yeah.
It's like, what time is it? It's almost 2 o'clock. I still haven't eaten today. And but before, if I'd have like a cappuccino after dinner or something, it would never affect me. Like I never felt like, oh, I'm wired now. Like I could always fall asleep. Yeah. But I'm assuming that it still does something to my brain or my body, even in my system, to not allow me to fully rest. So what is the optimal time how many hours before you sleep should we not have any caffeine?
Got it. And by the way, the hours before with the screen time, 60 to 90 minutes. That's all I recommend. So with the caffeine thing, you just said it perfectly. You can definitely go to sleep, but your nervous system can still be active because caffeine has something called, it has a half-life of about 8 hours. So if you have 200 milligrams of caffeine, 8 hours later, 100 is still active in your system.
Wow.
And so this can keep you out of normal stages of REM sleep and deep sleep. All right. So you can be physiologically laying down and think that you're getting 8 hours sleep. And so this study that was done, they gave people caffeine right before bed, 3 hours before bed, and 6 hours before bed. And they found that even 6 hours out was enough to have noticeable, and they use like monitoring systems, measuring their brain waves to find out that, their sleep is actually getting interrupted because of the caffeine. And then there was the subjective, so there's the objective and subjective parts of this test, and people thought like, hey, I got enough sleep, like I feel great. But in actuality, their body was lacking that rejuvenative sleep. And what that does is you have this false sense of being well rested, and you automatically, unknowingly start using more caffeine at some point during the day because you're going to have more daytime sleepiness. All right. So, and that creates that whole vicious circle with caffeine to keep you going.
Sure. Okay. So how many hours before?
I recommend, and I'm a fan of caffeine, right? Just do it in the morning. Do it in the early part of the day. It depends on how sensitive you are.
Before
by
noon.
the way, too. Yeah, before
General rule
noon
of thumb.
would be ideal. You know,
Okay,
but
cool.
some people are hypersensitive to caffeine.
Yes, of
Everybody's
course.
metabolism is
It's
different. Some people might need to lay off of it completely, but that's a whole nother book of how to make that happen.
Sure. Okay. So no caffeine afternoon. This is my fourth one that I see here that I like. This is one of my favorites that I was doing that I needed before I learned about this power and the importance of sleep, and that's be cool.
Yes.
And I remember growing up in Ohio, my dad, we did not have air conditioning in our house. And my dad was just like, well, I don't want to spend the money on this, and it's only 2 months in the summer where you got to deal with it. But St. Louis is the same as Ohio.
Yes.
And, man, it was miserable because I couldn't wear sheets or anything. I'd just be laying there sweating with the fan on, and my dad would make me turn the fan down because he didn't want me to get whatever. I don't know. And
right.
So it was just misery, and I couldn't sleep. I'm up all night. And I wish my dad would have read this book then so he could understand the importance of being cool. But what does it mean to be cool? What's the optimal coolness that you should be in, or does it matter?
Yeah, absolutely, man. And my story is very similar with yours. My bedroom was upstairs at our house.
The top of the freaking house.
And,
man.
heat rises, coolness drops.
It's the worst.
So this is why our basements tend to be cooler.
Yeah.
Upstairs, I would literally see those heat waves.
Oh my gosh,
walking
it's
up there, 100-degree St. Louis weather, and so I would spray myself with a water bottle and then lay there butt naked and hope my brother doesn't come in the room. When I'm trying to sleep. But yeah, man, it's not good sleep.
No.
And so this is really simple. Your body goes through a process. It's something called thermal regulation, and it does this every night. And we'll just say around 9 p.m. average. It does this process to lower your core body temperature to create the ideal environment for deep sleep.
Yeah.
All right. Your body cools you off to sleep better.
Right.
So you want to support it and not work against it. So here's some simple tips, and it's going to sound a little frosty to some people, but ideally your room temperature is going to be, and this is according to research, what experts say, 62 degrees to 68 degrees for sleeping, all right? And some people are like, no way. Like my wife she's from Kenya. So hot climate, no, she's not having that. So I find a happy medium,
So you're at the top. You're at 68, 69,
like
right?
69, you know. But, and also, our friend Kelly Starrett, Dr. Kelly Starrett, he had a pretty big struggle with this, with being too hot. And he got it cold in the room, but it still was enough, and he didn't want his wife to suffer. So he got something called a chili pad, which basically sits on your side of the bed, and he swears by it.
Underneath the mattress, or underneath the sheet?
It's right on top of the mattress. Yeah,
underneath the sheet.
Exactly.
But it just keeps you cool underneath you.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
And it's been a game changer for him. So just cooling your body temperature.
That's a good idea.
Even just 1 degree difference.
It's huge.
It's huge.
It's huge. Okay, cool. So be cool at night. Doesn't mean you can still you can still wrap yourself in a blanket, but just keep the room cool.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I like that. Okay, so that was number 4. Number 5, let's do is get to bed at the right time. So why is it important to be at the right time?
Yeah.
Should we be at the same time every night? And what is that optimal time?
Good question, man. So timing your sleep is like timing an investment. If you invest a lot at the wrong time, you're going to get pain. Mm-hmm. But if you invest even a little bit at the right time, you get some big rewards. And so according to research, our, quote, money time sleep is between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. And why that is that this is when you're going to get your greatest increase of melatonin, which is going to help you to go through your normal sleep cycle, and the greatest secretion of things like human growth hormone as well. So more recovery, more anabolic growth and development.
Between 10 and 2 a.m.
That's right. Yeah.
Is when you should be going to sleep, or that's when you get your optimal sleep?
Right. If you can get some sleep in that window, and some experts say that it's like twice as much value per hour.
Wow.
Right. So
if you go to bed at 9:30, 9:45, and you're asleep in that window that whole time, that's the optimal time.
Yeah,
essentially.
and people will notice this when they tend to get to bed a little bit earlier. It's just like, wow, I slept really great.
Right.
I see your face. You're like, yeah, when that happens, but it rarely happens. And so that's the kind of money time window. But it's not about being perfect. If this doesn't fit your lifestyle, stack the other conditions, do the other things. Yes. Because the timing does matter, because your body's wired up to work with nature. Yeah. And only recently can we basically manufacture a second daytime. And our systems, our genes are expecting a night cycle for us to get cozy, to get sleep. but we can throw on the, do the laptop lap dance all night long today, watch YouTube videos and Netflix and be on our social media. But our genes are not different from our ancestors even, 100 years ago, let alone thousands.
I hear that, man.
And so we can evolve through this stuff, like some X-Men stuff, but it's going to take a little bit of time.
The first step in learning to attach dopamine to the effort process, which is the key operation in order to succeed, is to be very careful about how much you focus on the end goal. Or if we don't know what the end goal is, there's a huge gap there, and it can feel overwhelming
and depressing.